addictive because I was learning so fast. So I became extraordinarily addicted. But as I was learning, my partners, as I'm doing certain things, my partners would go back to work. Go, Tom, there's
In your house somewhere?
I'm going, but look at my sandals. Look at the happy people. Look at the. But they're saying if we do it this way, we can make more.
I'm trying to start to sing now, so.
Christmas carols.
How are y'all doing tonight?
We're good, Monty. How are you?
Worst case scenario. Hopefully make it better. So, welcome to the Unprofessionals. There's the first timers. I'd say like at least a quarter of y'all are here for the first time. And is it your first time in the building too? Okay. So we'll share a little bit about Mega Workplace in a minute. But I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Monty, for those of you that are just meeting me tonight, and I'm the VP of Unprofessionals. We've got Margaret in the back, secretary on the board, Kyria, our treasurer, and Adriana Rivas, our president. She just came from the Eustis Chamber Board meeting, so as YP, we get a guaranteed seat on the board, so that's pretty cool. So what is Young Professionals? Well, we started with an idea. We went to the Eustis Chamber, and they supported us, so thank you. We are volunteers, though, so all of your money goes to our next event and to hopefully the chamber, because we are legally using their insurance and everything else, so we want to make sure to give them thanks. So, no, but we develop our own programming, so after this, we're going to ask y'all for feedback on what you think can be better. We're going to try to mix it up next year, do some fun stuff, do some give back stuff, do some great dancing, I don't know, so we'll figure it out. But what are we? So, in other words, our mission is to continue to enhance and engage those wishing to get better and be part of positive trends that are happening locally. That's how I would say it. And our vision, I think, is to be relevant amongst ourselves, everywhere we go, our family, our peers, and learning skills and developing a network to grow with. So thank you to our host and sponsor, Mega Workplace. Adriana is the manager of the building. They have office suites available for rent here and across Lake County. If you think this is a nice place, there are nicer ones that they own as well. So go see her. Mega Workplace, this building is kind of like the entrepreneurial hub for Lake County right now. There's Small Business Development Center downstairs. There's One Lady Cups hosted here. There's the Lake Economic Area Development Partnership here. Jam's here. There's custom software in Dazen. There's a construction company. There's a state representative here. There's a lot of cool people cycling through this building, a lot of free resources. So I encourage you to come here for any of their events. It's a good surface scratcher to figure out the resources across Lake County and regionally. Oh. So we've got our pretender. And we've got one on PowerPoint pulled up. So I didn't practice my breakdance a bit. We asked Margaret to do a lot of things, so I'm not going to blame you, Margaret. Margaret does our marketing, so anything you see on social media, you have to thank her. Makes up all of our graphics, logs our meetings. We meet weekly, try to come up with ideas to grow, be better, engage with you, and give you what you need and what you think we need. So, yeah, I want to thank the board for their volunteering hours to get this up and going. We're called Young Professionals, but really we welcome all ages, and we feel like we can do that because of the quality of the speakers that we've had and how it lines in with the mission, how we want to integrate locally with mentors and already successful people or more experienced people. All right, is that what I want? Okay. So the good food, that was Lindo's Catering, Rose and Craig Lindo, or Dr. Rose, I should say. They were kind enough to sponsor the food. They're locally based in Mount Dora, and I encourage you to, I don't know if they cook for you at home, that's all I'll be doing for you. I don't think I'll do a fit in my condo. right, Jim Green. So, how many of you have been to Lemonade Cups? Like 50%. So, Jim is there week after week supporting this. And I said this the other day, but Jim is a mortgage consultant. He's been doing it a long time. Been doing it 41 years, which that doesn't tell me how old you are, but that I know I can learn something from you. Starting at 6? Yeah, that makes sense. But every week Jim gets up here and he preaches essentially about all the resources and all the help that you can get from the building, what the program's about, and always giving back. He's giving back tonight, volunteering his time. So Jim is our lead organizer. He doesn't say up there for Lemonade Cups. And I say leads, he leads with his heart. So it's a good one to have running a support organization. So with that, I want to welcome up Jim Green.
All right, thank you. So, one of the things that we do at 1 Million Cups is this is about giving back, and I think one of the biggest things, and we'll talk about that in a minute too, is giving back to the community. The nice thing is, tonight, this is about you. So we're going to make tonight about you. I will tell you there's going to be classwork, there's going to be homework, there's going to be math. And we all know math is hard. So if you want to leave, now's your opportunity. If not, then we're going to go through this, and hopefully we'll set some good goals for next year. So what we want to look at is we're going to do some goal planning for 2025, and we'll look at where are you going and how are you going to get there. So before we start real quick, who does a regular annual goal planning at the end of the year? Anyone? So a handful. So hopefully you can maybe incorporate some of the things that you do year to year, and maybe we'll incorporate some good ideas as we go through this. I will tell you, as you see the fancy slides in the back, that was not me, that was my old assistant. She put this together, and she thought she was really, and she did a great job with it. I wish she was here tonight. So why do we set goals? And the first one is, as everybody knows, 92% of New Year's Day goals, they're done by January 15th. So we have to have something in place. These are the ones that I like. 83% of the population do not set goals each year. So 83% of your competition does not have a plan. So when you set a goal, you have a plan. 14% have a plan, but not in writing. So we're up to 97% that still doesn't have a plan in writing. 3% of the workforce and people put a plan in place in writing. And I think this just tells a lot. That a Harvard Business study found out that the 14% with goals are 10 times more successful with those without goals. So people that just wander aimlessly, that 83%, and just trying to get business where they can, they're going to get outworked and out profitable by the 14% 10 times over. What's even better is the 3% that have them in writing are 3 times more successful than the 14%. The 3% is 30 times more successful than the 83% that doesn't have anything, a plan, nothing in writing. So having goals is going to be important as you go forward. So when we set goals, we want to set them smart. We want them to be specific. We want them to be measurable. We want them to be attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And the one thing that I look at when you set goals, you have to, the art to be realistic as well. You have to know your industry. You have to know what is coming in the coming year. What is your industry going to be in? Like Monty said, I'm in the mortgage business. Michelle's in the mortgage business. 5 years ago, if you would have told me rates would have been 2.5%, I'd have said no way. 5 years ago, if you'd have said rates would have been 8.5% following the 2.5%, I would have said very, very unlikely. So we have a lot of changes. You have to know what's going to happen in the next 12 months. And when I look at goals, I look at 12 months. People are like, oh, do a 5-year plan, do a 3-year plan. It's a good idea, but things are going to change. So I think, you have an idea of what's going to happen in 2 years, but really focus on the next year and adjust as you get towards that. So you want to be safe with these, and you want to make them relatable and attainable. And a good example is just say you're in a business that's gonna have a little bit of a challenge next year for whatever reason, the economy, whatever the industry is, and you made 100 grand this year. When you set your goal next year, and you set a goal to say, well, I want to make 220,000 next year, knowing that your industry has challenged, even if you make 170, you feel defeated. It's like, I missed my goal by $50,000. No, you had a 70% gain, but you made the goal so unattainable that you lost sight of where it was. On the other side too, if you say, you know, business is good, it looks like it's going to continue the next year, I'm going to set a goal for 115. 15% gain is a really nice gain. The problem is, if you hit your 115 by September, what happens the last quarter of the year? You're kicking back cruising. Oh, I hit my goal. I don't need to work. You know, why do I need to continue? I got my goal. And that last quarter will really put you behind the curve for the coming year. So when you set them, you know, just make them smart and relative based on your market, your industry, and where you think it's going to go over the next year. So that's what we have the SMART goals. We have the little bow and arrow. So this is where our homework starts, and we'll get to this in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and start passing them out. And if you were here last month, you heard Jesse talking about what does success mean to you. And one of the things that we look at, and that I look at too, you have to be well-rounded in your day-to-day life. You have to have not just your business goals in place, but you have to see where you are in your life in all aspects of your life. Because if you focus solely on income, which is great, but the rest of your life is out of balance. So what I'd like everybody to do, if you can, we'll take 2 minutes and just fill out your wheel. And what you're going to do, there's six folks on the wheel. Mark those where you are today. And then once you're done, after you circle and connect the dots on them, and just see how your wheel looks. So when you do your year-end planning, you know what areas you need to focus on. You know, and as you go through if we talk about career, this is work, this is what we're going to talk about today. Where are you in your career, where you want to be going? Social. What's your social life like? You know, you have to be out there being a little bit social. Financially, are you where you want to be at financially? Could you use improvement? Where are we at there? Could you save more? Could you pay off some debt? Where are we at there? Family. Are we so focused on where we're going in our business that we're neglecting our family? You know, you gotta have the family time. I know all of us with kids, and you know, the nice thing in being in a commission job, you can be there for your family. It's not always available for people in the 9 to 5, but you have to make that time for your family. The same thing, when you focus on the other, are you letting your physical health go by the wayside? You know, do you think that getting up at 8 o'clock to go to the fridge and get your milk and cookies is your exercise for the day? You know, you can talk yourself into it, but where are you at with your physical health? And then the same thing with your mental and your education. Are you educating? Are you growing yourself in whatever areas? And the other one that I think we need to put in, that we can put in there too, or you can think about, where are you at in your spiritual journey? You know, are you doing everything? Are we going, you know, are we at a church? Are we showing up at church, doing our you know, $20 in the thing, and then just we go about our life? Are we getting involved? You've got to have the spiritual journey in there as well. So everybody got their wheel done? And we did this quick, and we'll give you the other ones that you can take home that you can spend a little more time, think about, and make it. You got a pretty good wheel. Your wheel's turning. Anybody have a really out of balance wheel? And I think this is the thing that we don't think about when it comes to the end of the year. We've got to balance our life. So we'll get you some extra ones to take home, spend a little more time thinking about it. And the thing that I say, and my wife and I do, we just get a big white poster board, and basically we do the wheel. And in the wheel, we write what our goals are for the year. So, quick little side story about my amazing daughter, Haley. And if you see in the bed, she told me that I had to have this. Because when I told her I was doing this, she's like, well, you need to talk about your amazing daughter. So it's like, all right, how can I do this? So I'm going to add her a lacrosse jersey. So when she went into high school to play lacrosse, she knew that the varsity team was good. They were, the 2 years before, they were like top 16. They made it to the last 16. Her freshman year, I think they made it to the quarterfinals, the final 8 in the state playoffs. So she's like, I know this is going to be a 2-year journey to make it to varsity. But that was her goal. I want to play varsity. So about midway through the season of playing in the tournament, one of the girls, she played defense. One of the girls went for a ground ball, and she messed up her knee. So after that, the coach was asking some of the girls, like, well, who are we going to call up from JV? And all the girls on defense go, you got to call up Haley. So he calls up Haley, and from that day on, she played varsity, which is about the second half of her sophomore year. So at the end of the year, we go back and just like, and I would do this for my kids, I would say, let's get your goal sheet out, let's see what we accomplished. Because when you do with the kids, it goes behind the bed or behind the dresser, never looked at it. Guess what one of her goals on her goal sheet was for the year? Play varsity lacrosse. And I said, isn't that cool that she totally forgot about it, and when she looked at it, one of the first things that she saw was like, oh my gosh, this was one of my goals that I made. So that's my amazing daughter, Haley. She's going to watch the replay. She's working tonight, so I had to throw her in there. Now comes the fun part. So this is going to be, the first part of this is going to be kind of the easy part. So what I want you to think of is one of 2 or 3 things. For next year, we're going to think, where do you want to go? So think 3 things. Do you want to do gross sales? Do you want to do gross commissions, which is not always available for everybody, or gross income or net income? And I'll give you an example, like with real estate. You can do gross sales. I want to do $25 million in sales. I want to base it on gross income, which is going to be whatever percentage of income the sales would generate. Or do I want to do it on net income based on what I'm going to make off of each sale? The other thing you need to know, what is your average sale or income per transaction? So we have to we're going to break it down on what we need to do. So we're going to break it down because we're going to pick our goal, whether it's income or sales. We're going to break it down on how much each transaction is, your average transaction. And, I was thinking about this driving over here. Some people's like, well, my average, why are we doing averages? Even if your average transaction, like if you're an insurance salesman, is $1,200, you're going to have that $4,000 insurance policy every so often. So it's going to factor in. So I think the easiest way is you have to do it based on the average transaction. So we're going to figure out how many we need per year. Per year, per month, per week, and per day to get to the goal that you want to get to. 2 things that will go in after we go through figuring out our numbers is your conversion percentage. That is the percentage of customers you convert to a closed transaction once they have applied with you. So we will talk to people. We'll talk to agents. We'll talk to the people that might be interested in a mortgage. We'll talk to people about their banking. Doesn't mean they haven't applied with us yet. Once they sit down and they've made that initial application or that initial consultation, they still haven't done business with you yet. So you need to know or have a general idea. And again, we'll give you some extra forms. You can think about this longer over the weekend and towards the end of the year. What's the percentage that sit down and make that initial application that end up doing business with you? Is it 50%? Is it 25%? Just a general idea. And the other one is what I call our pull-through percentage. What is the percentage of people that you talk to? So we're kind of working a little bit backwards on this one. What is the percentage of people that you talk to that end up doing the application? Then from the application, end up doing closed business. Because we're all in there. How many times do you talk to someone in the phone, insurance and banking, and in whatever industry we are, it never goes farther than that phone conversation. So we have to know or have a general idea of, we talk to people that become applications. That's probably going to be a lower percentage, maybe, depending upon your business. That might be 25, 30%. Your conversions probably should be 50% or higher. So once they've started that process with you, they should be closing with you. So we'll go through an example on that. So let's just say that for next year, we're going to call it income, gross sales, whatever it is. and however you want to make it. We're going to do it for $300,000 for 2025. Your average transaction on this is $5,000. So that means that to reach our goal, we have to do 60 closed transactions for next year. Okay? 60 at 5,000 apiece, we got our 300,000. That breaks down that we need to close 5 deals a month. That breaks down to 1.15 a week, and it breaks down to 0.16 per day. This is kind of an exaggeration because it's a smaller number of transactions, but if you're in a retail business and you're doing 30, 40, 50 transactions a day, you need to know how many do I need to do each day to get to that goal. So in this example, we're going to say that on the conversion percentage, which again is how many closed transactions you get per customer, we're going to use the example that 33%. So at 33%, 1/3 of everybody that does an application with you or starts the process with you or talks business with you ends up being a closed transaction. That means at 33%, we'll do reverse math on it, 2/3 of the people that do application or start the process with you have not closed. Based on that, you now have to have 180 transactions per year to get your 60 closed sales. Does that make sense? Even more, we're going to look at the pull-through percentage at 25%. Now, 1 out of every 4 people that you talk to has become an application or a legitimate business conversation to do business with you. But if 1 out of every 4 that you talk to takes the application process, to get 180 customers, that means throughout the year, you have to talk with 720 different people throughout the year to get your 180 applications or business conversations to get your 60 closed transactions. And again, when I did this, we put together some just kind of exaggerated numbers. But I think in some cases, if it's a retail business, it's probably pretty close. But this tells you, now you know that to meet the 180 and to get to the 720, you've got to have 1.97 people every single day talking to you. You've got to have 2.77 people every day based on a 5-day work week applying or talking about doing business with you. So the 5 a month, the 60 a year, just changed. So does everybody want to stop and take a minute and just kind of start running some numbers? I see you guys are starting to do a little bit, but just kind of run some numbers to see, just to get an idea of where you think your year is going to look at and how many people you need to talk with next year. And we can talk through some of them, and we can just kind of figure out where we need to go with that, and we'll go into some thoughts on where we need to go with that once we get done.
Jim, I've got a thought to interject if I can. For those that don't have their own business yet, can you translate this to, what do I need to do to get that promotion? Or how many transactions do I need to get a bonus? Or kind of relate it to the entrepreneurs for a second for us?
So let's go to insurance. A lot of people start out as an agent working for an insurance company. It's going to be the same thing. Your agent, the owner is probably going to give you a goal, to say, Monty, I want you to do $240,000 of closed transaction. This is gross sales on insurance policies next year. Your goal is 240. You got to do 20 grand a month. You're going to go through the same process. So if I go in and it's benefiting the owner, but you're trying to advance yourself, then you sit down and kind of go, I want to do 300,000. I want to achieve that goal by 25%. And then you're going to back into it the exact same way that we did. Most people in my industry, we get nothing from our corporate. Everything that we do, we have to generate on our own. And I think in most companies and businesses nowadays, they're not giving you leads. They're not giving you business. They're not saying, hey, here's a customer that's ready to go. Just go close the deal. They're not doing that, because if they're doing that, they're taking it for themselves. They're not going to let you profit off of what they did. So they want you to do that as well. So if I was working for someone and I was looking to advance myself, I would do it the same way. You know, how many customers do you have to quote insurance policies and insurance premiums on? How many of those are closing? And then you just back it down to how many people do I need to talk to every day, and how many policies do I need to quote on a daily, weekly basis to hit my 300,000. You got your son? My wife told me she wasn't doing homework today. So anybody, any questions while we're finishing this up?
I think the first thing for me is the filter rate, how many people do I talk to, right? That's a great thing to think about, because that's what we do.
It is.
Talk to people all day, every day.
And that's the one thing that and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was waiting till I was gonna bring up. This is a perfect example and an opportunity to show how and why we need to track our business. You know, so you can create your own tracking log, and just every time a call comes in, if you get an email inquiry, just log it. So when it comes this time next year, you can see, hey, I talked to X number of people. You know, you can move them over. You guys are much smarter than most with spreadsheets. Do it on a spreadsheet. This one moved to an application, this one moved to a close. So at the end of the year, you can just print out that spreadsheet and you'll know how many you talked to, how many took, went through the application or the business consultation, and how many ended up being closed. So, tracking is a big part of this, and I'm guilty of that. I'm terrible at tracking my numbers. Everybody good, or we want to wait a minute, or we want to move on? One more minute. Gotcha.
I think, Jim, one of the great parts about what you're preaching is I just noticed that I know this guy here in front of me. I think, especially if you're doing your own leads or you're self-motivating yourself. And unless you lie to yourself in your numbers, sometimes you can work really hard in a day, but you can really get nowhere in the right direction.
Right.
So, in real estate, for me at least, I'll answer the phone 10 times, and 10 people might call at the wrong time, and I'm ready to get off the phone because I'm in the middle of something else. So when you can follow your stats, it kind of tells me that out of 10 calls, I should get at least one viewing where I take someone out and show them the property. If I fall below that, then I know, I need to convert more of the calls into showings, and then more of the showings will turn out into commitments.
And that's a good point too, to think about how detailed you want to get on your tracking. Maybe everybody's calling between 10 and 2, and that's your busiest time. And then you know that I have to have something in place that are fielding those calls.
And if I fall short, then I start calling back when the day gets quieter, where when it's too busy, I don't call them back. Oh well, lost that lead. But I think it's gauging them. It's interesting. It's a self-motivated issue.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is, again, companies aren't getting your business. We all have to be self-motivated and self-starters. But kind of a little side note, when you were talking about what we're preaching about today, when we go to church, because we go to cross down the road, we always know who's preaching because it's the one wearing the jacket. So when you come to these events, you can always pick the speaker out, because 9 out of 10 times they're going to be one wearing a jacket. Because in the year, 15 months we've done 1 million cups, how many times have I worn a jacket?
I didn't know you owned one.
He borrowed it.
I borrowed it. I snuck over to Monty's when he was preparing for tonight.
But I think I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start tracking my calls, a little pad there, evaluate, it's calling yourself out, really.
Yeah, and you can put in information in the tracking thing, who they are, who referred them, what company they refer them from. George, for you, how did you find out about us? Because that's the big thing, and we'll look at that in a minute too. How are people getting to you? And that's where we got to figure out, how are we getting these 720 people to talk to?
And for me, Jim, I don't have my own business yet, but I find this data tracking really good in a lot of ways because leadership may not have the time or the systems in place yet to ask you for these metrics. But if you're to go to them and report these, or come up with these conversion rates to make yourself more efficient, and it'll make your organization a lot better and make you a lot more valuable to it.
Yeah, so when I put this together, being with the management, I put it together with the thought of, I wanted to go through some real estate offices and help them with their goal plan. But I also wanted to put it together so it would relate to anybody in any business. My wife started working for a retail shop in Mount Dora for a couple of days a week, and I was telling her that she should have the owner speak up, because I think this is exactly something that they can use as well. They'll know what their average sale is. They're going to know how many sales they do, how many they track, how many customers come in the store every day. So they'll know that. Now we have to figure out, like we started at the beginning on the first slide, where are we going for next year? Now we got to figure out how we're going to get there. Brittany, you good? Think so. Okay. And like I said, we've got extras, so we'll take it home. You can work on your wheel. There's on the back side of it is the same thing. You've got the goals. And the next one kind of cheated a little bit. So we're going to go to the lead generation. And there's really three strategies or combination strategies we can look at. We can add to them. And some of these I did put on there just so you can add your own. But the main three that we look at is the free ones, which, getting out on the streets, pounding the pavement, the free tech strategies. And again, tech is not my big thing, but you've got a lot of options that are free. And then you can do the pay to play. And you can combine maybe some of the pay to play with some of the free pound the pavements and doing those types of things. So and I will tell you, I think the number one mistake that people make in business is they do not take advantage of their database. Every single business should have a database. Every single business should be contacting that database at least 8 times a year, maybe more. If you're not contacting your database, it doesn't matter what business you're in, somebody is. That is your gold mine sitting there because your database is somebody that has either done business with you or talked to you about business. They should know who you are, and if they don't, a quick reminder, they will know who you are. If you're not talking to your database, as good as you are and you're the best at what you do, somebody's trying to take your customer. That is, I've always said it, that is my number one thing. If you want to grow your business, if you want to hit the numbers that you need to hit, your number one source, and it's free, is your database. And I sent emails out, and I said, hey, do this. And it doesn't have to be work related. You don't have to pound them 8 times a year with hey, this is what's going on, do business with me. Hey, you need to do business with me. When spring comes or fall comes, send them recipes. Send them little examples of homemade fire pits. Just contact them. And I do an experiment. If you have a database, send them an email first of the year. Every single one in it. See how many respond to it. I will almost promise you'll get about a 5% response. And depending upon the business, you're probably going to get a 1 to 2% closure rate for simply sending out an email. It's all with customers, it's all about timing. Michelle and I, we're in mortgage business. If I did a loan with somebody at 2.5%, 2.5 years ago, and I send an email, I don't know what their situation is. They may have gotten so deep in the economy of supporting the economy that they're having trouble keeping their head above water. To them, going to 7.5% to consolidate all of the bills and expenses that they've gotten into over the last 2 years might make a lot of sense for them. You don't know. And it's all about timing. So with your database, just kind of every 6 weeks or so, hit them. Again, don't always make it about business. Throw a thought in there, say, hey, some things are coming up, some changes are coming up. It's just the timing, and you'll get those you know what, this just came up. I wanted to talk to you about it. So some of the other ones, and we don't have to go through them all if you have different thoughts on it, But you know, going to events, you can go work trade shows, you can work bridal shows, you can just go walk there, you don't have to pay to have a booth, just go there, visit, talk to people, you can go to events. Networking groups, there are some that are free, there are some that you have to pay for. You can just go be part of those and kind of, you know, this one is a minimal cost, so you might even throw that into, you know, kind of the free strategy because it's inexpensive to be here. You know, you can go to seminars. People put on seminars. You know, a lot of companies want you to hear what they're talking about, but it's a great place to meet people. Business to business, you know, 1 million cups. Breaking bread is what we call having coffee, you know, just having lunch with somebody. You meet somebody, you know, we always talk about 1 million cups. If you make a connection, go have coffee with them. Learn more about their business. That's a whole free string of events that you're getting to know that person more. And they may not do business with you, but they may know somebody that does. So, anybody want to throw out some extra thoughts on the free hit the streets strategies that they do? For sure.
You could host seminars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Referral campaigns. Kind of tapping your database a little bit, but really focusing on asking for referrals to the page strategy.
I'll give you a good example on a referral campaign. When you send a letter or you send an email to say, who do you know that could use my service? How many responses you get? When you send an email or you send a letter and say, hey, can you give me the names of 3 people that I can say you sent me their information and they might need my service, so I can recommend your referral to them? You may not get 3, but you might get 1. You know, the water cooler conversations, you know, your water cooler conversations, somebody might have just got, you know, their laptop invaded, and it's like, oh my gosh, Jeremy just saved us. But ask for, you know, I always say when we have new people come in, and I would talk to them, and they would call customers like, do you know when you're going to be sending your paperwork in? Never ask for it. Tell them, hey, can you have this to me by Tuesday? Can I expect to have this by the end of the day Thursday? If you ask, you're gonna have a tough time getting what you want. Monty, you got a thought?
Oh, it's a shameless plug that usually the lead events are free because of proud partners and invested governments.
No, and that's a great example though. Lead has so many events, what, 24, 25 a year?
I've been there a year and 8 months, and I supported over 120 events. Wow. Including 1 million bucks.
And they're all free.
Mostly free.
Mostly free.
Yeah.
There's a few, but you know, there's a couple flyers on the back table. I'm pretty sure those are free.
A Bella Colina wedding is $30K just to talk about it. So usually we charge for things there, our nicest venue in the county, but yeah, usually free. Or
But
free
that's
to pay for.
yeah, that's another great one to be part of. You know, the free text, the text strategies. You know, everybody's all about all the tech. You know, you got a website, you can create a blog. Those are going to be slow. They're going to take some time to get traction. People got to read them. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the standards. Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, they're all there. They take time to get traction on them. They take time to get notice on them. You know, but what happens if your strategy is TikTok because you're in the younger age group and the government shuts them down, which they've been talking about for what, 2 years, George? Shut down TikTok? I personally think it's probably going to happen, but if all your eggs are in TikTok, what happens when that goes away? And then any other social media pain?
Well, I think all of these are really important. However, I do feel like in today's world, the pounding the pavement, the cold calling, the face-to-face kind of gets lost because it's so easy to do the other 2 columns. And however, I have always found the most effective place is to be the face-to-face.
Right.
People want to have face-to-face. And sometimes I think in today's world that can be a little bit more intimidating because it takes practice. And you have to be not afraid to go out or cautious or it's an uncomfortable place to be when you're going out to events, introducing yourself, or you're just walking into a business and doing the cold call. But that face-to-face, I think is more value than people give it.
I think it clearly has a high percentage close rate.
It does.
And to that point, anybody read the book, 7 Levels of Communication? Great book. One of the things they said, and I can't remember the exact number, but part of the communication, having the coffees, having the face-to-face, was sending a thank you card, a handwritten thank you card. Who has sent a handwritten thank you card in the last 6 months? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who has sent one in the last 3 months? All right, we're down to 4. You guys are doing good. I mean, that is by far better than the averages. How many of you got a call back from the person you sent the handwritten thank you card, thanking you for sending that card? Because nobody does that. 3. So, did you get a call back?
No, but the handwritten things for me weren't necessarily just handwritten communication.
Okay. So, even if we go 5, 3 out of the 5 got a response. That's a 60% response rate that, probably 10% of the group did. So that's part of the 7 levels. I think the guy was saying he did like 3 every morning, for whatever it was worth. And then the other one, we'll go down like the pay-to-play strategies. You can do search engine ads. You can do paid referral sources. You got to remember, paid referral sources, you're one of who knows how many. I know with some of the paid referral sources, there could be 20 lenders that are buying the same lead. So if you're not calling that lead in whatever your industry is, within seconds after getting it, you're going to be the 4th or 5th down the line. Oh, I already talked to somebody. And the return rate that you have to look at too is, and that's something we'll look at here in a minute too. What's your return rate on? So you have to be careful on that. Social media ads. You can spend money to advertise on Facebook. I think they are getting much better on the targeted ads. You can do any of the tech strategies you can do paid ads for. Print advertising. I don't know what the return on, but I think it's starting to make a little bit of a comeback. One of our organizers, Todd Headley.
It never went anywhere.
All right, see, we got print ads sitting in the room. Monty.
I was going to say about online, it's good to have like a solid foundation for people to look to you to refer. Is this a legit place, and is this a reliable company based on their online presence? But I will say that a B2C, in my limited experience, a B2C, I think has a lot better chance with online marketing, but a B2B where those are face-to-face deals. We've had 700 different people from the 1 million cups for a reason. I mean, there's definitely value in face-to-face.
Exactly. Like Michelle said, you can sponsor an event. This is where sometimes it get a little bit pricey. You can sponsor events, or you can join a BNI or networking group, or there's other networking groups. I'm biased. I was part of BNI for 17 years. Todd is part of BNI. It is singly the best networking group, in my opinion, that there is. They're tough to get into, but if you can get into one, highly recommend it. Visit them. Spots do open up. Any other thoughts for the pay strategies?
With print advertising, I know we've done a lot of print advertising over the last 5 years. Direct mail with a 5-call follow-up, we normally get about a 1 to 1.5% response rate on that.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You have to look at. I always looked at it. Again, Monty said I've done this since 1984, and back in the old days, everything was done by mail, and we always looked at it. If you did, a 1,000-piece mailer, it was kind of a 1 to 2 response. If you got a 5% return on a 1,000-piece mailer, that was a great return. You would get 1 to 2% closed transaction. That was a good return. If you got 2.5%, you were ahead of the crowd. That's a good return. So, you may think about it, it's like, geez, I got to send 5,000 letters to close 5 deals. think about it, it's not bad though, depending upon, you know, a little bit costlier now, with bulk mail, but, and the postal cost, but based on what your business is it worth it? So, not all low returns or low percentages are bad ideas. But, you know, to kind of finish this up, is just find strategies that are specific to your business. You know, some of them, big tickets, they just, in my opinion, you're not gonna get them off of, you know, just random Facebook posts. So, kind of along the same lines, what I think you need to do, so two things that you need to look at. We've got our personal time. One, you have to go back and figure out what I like to think about, and I read in a book from Todd Duncan about timeline. You have red time and green time. Red time is time working in your business. You're doing quotes, you're taking applications, you're working with customers. You know, how much time a week are you spending in red time? And also another way to look at it, red time is non-income generating time during your week. It's generating income because you're working on it, it's not generating new income. Green time is your income generating time. You know, like George was saying, if 10 to 2 was his busiest time, that's his green time because he has the best chance of making showings and connections and reservation or time for showings where he can get attended in. His red time might be 8 to 10 and 2 to 4. So